Catch up on the Chicago Bears 2025 offseason. I actually had a longtime subscriber reach out to me recently saying he loves my videos but doesn't have time to watch every one and wanted to know if I had a video catching people up on all the Bears offseason moves so far. I thought it was a great idea, so today I'm going to recap everything that has happened this offseason and explain how the Bears rebuild is finally over and why this team has legit playoff expectations going forward. Let's go ahead and get right into it. First, let's go ahead and recap all of the moves that have happened on this roster. On the screen, you will see the additions and losses. First, let's talk about the losses. Tevin Jenkins is gone. Keenan Allen is gone. Jack Sanborn is gone. So are Darrell Taylor, Demarcus Walker, Gerald Everett, and two defensive backs that I wanted to mention as well. Reddy Stewart and Jalen Jones. I think Reddy Stewart was a great undrafted free agent addition last year, and I really hated to see him go. But some of the additions really changed the face of this roster. Joe Tooney is an instant impact player. He is potentially the best left guard in all of football. He didn't allow a single sack all season last year, and he actually moved out to left tackle to help the Chiefs' Super Bowl run. He is a leader and will be a captain on our offensive line and completely changes the way our O-line looks, especially considering that he has Drew Dahlman next to him. One of the smartest centers in football, one of the best run blockers, a guy that really is going to upgrade this O-line. But then we added Grady Jarrett, a guy who's going to be the best defensive tackle we've had since Akeem Hicks or Tommy Harris. He is an absolute force multiplier and a guy that'll make everyone on our defense better. Those three additions alone completely changed the way this roster looks. But then we also added Jonah Jackson, another Pro Bowl caliber guard, and we also extended him. He should be our right guard for the next 2 to 3 years at minimum. And then we added an exciting and athletic young pass rusher, Dio Odangbo, a guy who can get after quarterbacks. He was top 10 in the NFL in QB hits last season. But Ryan Poles didn't stop there, adding two more wide receivers, Devin Duvernay and Olamide Zaccheaus. Duvernay is going to be our starting kick returner and punt returner most likely, and Zaccheaus is going to be our starting slot receiver and another guy who can return punts if needed. We also brought back Steven Carlson, Travis Homer, Doug Kramer, Scott Daly, Tavarius Moore, Josh Blackwell, Bill Murray, Daniel Hardy, and Amen Ogbongbemiga. But by adding three impact players in the trenches and five new starters on the offensive and defensive lines, something that's pretty much unprecedented in the NFL, the year of the trenches has already lived up to the hype. And we haven't even gotten to the NFL draft yet. So now we're going to take a look at the Bears' new depth chart. First, let's take a look at the offense, where our starting offense is finally taking shape. Caleb Williams at quarterback. DeAndre Swift is the running back, at least for now, but he should be part of the rotation regardless. DJ Moore and Romo Dunze are joined by Olamide Zaccheaus and Cole Kmet, weapons for this offense. And then our offensive line has finally taken shape. Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright return as our tackles, and then we have a brand new interior. Joe Tooney, Drew Dahlman, and Jonah Jackson. For depth, Ryan Bates should be coming back. We also have Karan Amagaji, who I expect to actually provide some competition this year at tackle. And Bill Murray is back as well. But other than that, we still need some more depth on this offensive line. I think heading into the draft, one thing that still needs to be addressed is adding a couple more pieces on this O-line. But we don't have to do it at pick 10. We can do it on day 2 or maybe even day 3. But let's go ahead and look at the defensive side of the ball, where Dennis Allen has a lot to like here. Our secondary is pretty much set, although we do need another corner for depth. And then our biggest need here is another pass rusher. I do think Odangbo and Montez Sweat are decent, but having Austin Booker as our third defensive end is not how I want to go into the season. So we need at least one more defensive end, maybe two, and another defensive tackle would be nice as well. But overall, this defense is taking shape, and there's a lot to like here. To me, when I looked at that roster, I think Ryan Poles, Ben Johnson, and Dennis Allen have done an amazing job filling the holes on this roster and addressing the biggest needs. Right now, we just need more impact players, more blue chip talent. The more I look at this roster, the more I think that running back might actually be our biggest position of need. I do not see us going into this season with just DeAndre Swift, Roshan Johnson, and Travis Homer on the roster. I know Ian Wheeler should be healthy, but I definitely see at least one running back being drafted, and I see him being drafted within the first 3 rounds. But that's not our only need. I also think we need to draft a defensive end at some point as well, but again, it doesn't have to be at pick 10. But I would be pretty surprised if we don't draft at least one edge rusher by the end of day 2. After that, though, our biggest need on this roster is adding depth to the offensive line and then adding a safety who will be under contract in 2026. We have 5 safeties on the roster right now, but every single one of them is entering the final year of their contract. So I do fully expect us to draft a safety at some point as well. But right now, those are the Bears' biggest needs about a month before the draft. But you can't talk about this offseason without talking about the Bears' new coaching staff. Not only did the Bears land the guy unanimously viewed as the top young coaching candidate available, but they also put together an all-star staff around him. Ben Johnson, who has been the play caller for the Detroit Lions for the last 4 years, was able to land some big-time names to build out his coaching staff. The biggest addition to me is former Saints and Raiders head coach Dennis Allen to run the defense. Landing an experienced defensive coordinator to run that side of the ball makes Ben Johnson's job easier, and it also gives him someone experienced to lean on. But he didn't stop there. He landed some of the bigger named assistant coaches in the league. Al Harris to coach our defensive backs and be the passing game coordinator on this defense. I love Al Harris. But speaking of coaches I really like, Antoine Randall L. joined as our assistant coach and our wide receiver coach. And then another big time move is landing former Chiefs and Commanders offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy joined our staff as our running backs coach and running game coordinator. But we also landed Dan Rashar, Bill Johnson, and many other coaches. This staff is just absolutely loaded. It's simply one of the most complete coaching staffs we've ever had in Chicago in my life. Even more reason for excitement heading into this season. A lot of it is just on paper, but so far it looks like all of the boxes are being checked, and the Bears are actually doing things the right way. My final point here is that now the Bears have a window of opportunity to compete in the NFL. Basically, the Bears have made a big transition this offseason from rebuilding mode into win now mode. Our philosophy has changed. We can now go after veteran players. We can now front load contracts. We can now be aggressive, restructure deals, and make moves that signal we want to win now. The foundation is set. Ryan Poles has built this roster through the NFL draft while also making some trades and free agent additions as well. He overturned 51 out of 53 total roster spots. Only 2 Ryan Pace draft picks remain on this entire roster: Cole Kmet and Jalen Johnson. And people wonder why we struggled the last couple of years. But on top of everything that's happened, Ryan Poles now has 3 chances to add impact players in the first 41 picks of this year's draft. He has an extra pick due to the trade he made with the Carolina Panthers 2 years ago. Ryan Poles' moves are still paying dividends, and we still have flexibility going forward and plenty of cap space in 2026 and beyond. As of right now, we still don't know the exact details of how much cap space we have left, but it's roughly somewhere between 15 and 20 million. But looking forward to next year, we have nearly 100 million in cap space and plenty of flexibility to add more. So heading into this year's draft, the moral of the story is we really can pick the best player available. On paper, we don't have any glaring needs on this roster, And the bottom line is we need to add impact players for the Chicago Bears. We now have a 4-year window of opportunity while Caleb Williams is still on his rookie deal. And for the first time in a while, we have legitimate playoff expectations going forward. This is what Ryan Poles has been building for. The Chicago Bears rebuild is over. This offseason, they've transitioned into win now mode, and they should have serious expectations placed on them heading into this season. This really is a new era of Bears football, and the offseason is not over yet. The NFL draft is still to come, and if you know anybody that doesn't have time to follow every video, but wants a recap of what the Bears offseason has been like so far, this is the video for them. I appreciate everyone who watches. Please hit that like button for me. I have a ton more content on the way, and until next time, bear down.